worked at Nike for 6 months, felt like I was somebody, right? But then Nike went through some layoffs and I was left without a job. And so I called a friend at Vanderbilt and I said, I'm looking to get back in college athletics. And he said, well, we just had the guy in the mailroom die. Would you be interested in sporting mail? I was like, well, that's not exactly what I had in mind, but yeah, sure.
From sorting mail to shaping the future of college sports marketing, that's the incredible journey of our guest, colleague, and longtime friend today, Eric Nichols. Nichols, the mastermind behind South Carolina's iconic Sandstorm tradition, has always been on the cutting edge when it came to how universities connect with fans. Starting in Vanderbilt's mailroom, Eric climbed his way to the director's chair, and that was just the beginning. During his 14-year stint as South Carolina's Deputy Athletics Director for External Operations, he became known as one of the more forward-thinking people in college sports. He led NACMA as president in 2014, he earned his PhD in 2023, and now he's pioneering the digital future of college sports at WMT Digital, where they're creating everything from AI-powered ticketing systems to immersive fan experiences that are changing the game. If you want to know where college sports marketing is headed, Eric Nichols is your crystal ball. He's got the experience, the innovation, and the vision that's shaping how teams and fans will connect in the digital age. We'll kick things off with a quick word from our newly minted sponsors, and then dive straight into what turned out to be one of our most fascinating and entertaining conversations yet. We hope you enjoy it as much as we did. This is the true story of two washed-up sports guys who chased the dream, private flights, championship rings, running sideline to sideline on per diem and adrenaline.
We gave our 20s and our 30s to the industry, pulled off miracles that were never in the job description. In return, low pay, long hours, and we still got cut from the team.
This is about what really happens behind the badge. The burnout, the bad bosses, the dream job that didn't love you back, but also the lifelong friendships, the chaos, the holy shit stories you couldn't make up. And somehow, despite everything, you'd still do parts of it all over again.
This is one for the ones who lived it, loved it, hated it, and still kind of miss it. For everyone who's ever asked, how in the hell did we survive that? We're two former sports insiders with more than 40 years of experience and more than enough scars to make fun of it all.
And just enough trauma to start a podcast instead of going to therapy.
I'm Brandon Barca.
And I'm Andy Boggs.
And this is No Longer Credentialed. We once had access, now we have opinions.
Sponsored by...
This episode of No Longer Credentialed is brought to you by Golden Slides, the only company helping fired college coaches literally slide into their FU money buyouts. You've just been handed $60 million to do absolute jack shit. It's like Ed McMahon crawled out of the grave just to smack you across the face with that big-ass check. You could worry about your staff's families, maybe even pretend to help them pack their boxes, but deep down, you know what you really want. A 14-karat gold playground slide. Golden Slides. Don't just wear your wealth around your neck. Ride that shiny bastard straight to the effing bank. So good. God, I love that. Oh.
It's almost like there's a realness to this.
Maybe a tad.
We're also sponsored by Drawl Generator, the app that lets you sound like whoever the hell's paying you next. One week you're from Boston, the next you're calling Baton Rouge, talking like you were born in a shrimp boat and baptized in a crawfish boil. With Drawl Generator, you can switch accents faster than you switch jobs. Want to talk like Chrissy Maltasante, lost in the Pine Barrens to get a job at Rutgers? Half frozen, out of smokes, screaming about ketchup packets and the Russian that wouldn't die? Forget about it. We got that setting too. No more awkward intros that start with a bullshit accent and end with some grandstanding governor sweating through a presser, mumbling into a hot mic like he's running for SportsCenter. Just open the app, pick your region, and let our AI inject pure, uncut bullshit charisma straight into your throat. That's Drawl Generator. Because loyalty's a myth, but sounding like the locals, that's forever family. Did I get that one right? I always say this. That's my family.
It's the content that keeps on giving. It just keeps giving and giving and giving. And we're just going to keep accepting, accepting, and accepting.
Podcast. You get it.
We've got a real treat for you on No Longer Credentialed today. Joining us is one of the smartest minds in the biz, Eric Nichols. He's been a mentor to me ever since my hot dog dancing days back at Vanderbilt. He's a guy who literally worked his way up from the mailroom to the upper ranks of college athletics. And no joke, he jump-started the iconic Sandstorm madness you see today in the crowds at South Carolina, where he served as deputy AD for external operations. In his spare time, when he's not rewatching Seinfeld for the 100th time, he's been NACMA president, earned his PhD, that's Dr. Nichols to everyone out there, and even taught as an adjunct professor at USC. These days, he's the head of college growth at WMT Digital, a forward-thinking tech firm helping sports teams build personalized, immersive digital experiences from websites and mobile apps to AI-powered ticketing and analytics, all designed to boost loyalty and revenue. He's got a ton of wisdom to share with us today about some of the biggest trends shaping the digital side of sports. But first, Eric, be honest, are you still getting those residual checks from Sandstorm in your mailbox?
Yeah, that and the token, I can get on a bus and take it back to campus. I wish. I mean, although they're not playing it as often this year, they're struggling. So maybe those checks are being diminished a little bit. But yeah, that's cool to be a part of. I'm just as proud as some of the Vandy things that we did together, for sure.
Tell the Sandstorm story real quick, because to me, it's one of those things that you can plan as much as you want for everything, but just how it organically happened.
I mean, you nailed it. And I feel like you're setting me up to blow smoke to you, but this is the truth. Is I learned a lot about game day environment from you, and when I went there, the main charge was, hey, we have this 2001 thing, but the rest of the game kind of stinks, and we need some energy in the stadium. And the story goes that I had a list of hot songs that we would play at key situations, some of which were from Vanderbilt. Sandstorm certainly tried it at Vanderbilt and then probably played it at the wrong time and it didn't work, but it hit just right and it became organic, and all the things, everything was aligned with a big game against a top 5 opponent at night, opening the season, and we won the game in dramatic fashion, and it caught on. And I think those Ole Miss is what I'm talking about. And I think the only thing that we did differently is just pay attention to the crowd and not be afraid to go back to the well and do it again. And now my colleagues in the industry are like, yeah, well, you've been going back to that well for about 20 years. But it's true. I mean, you watch the fans, see how they react, and give it to them again.
It's cool when you have kind of staple that lives over time. I mean, we saw a little bit of that at Vandy as well. If you can find those one or two things that sticks around for today, obviously there's probably 99 other things that we struck out on. Cool to be part of history a little bit.
I mean, like I said, I'm just as proud that when I look at Vandyville and that thing stretches as far as it stretches, and you and I were putting up tents at the very beginning, and really it was a bit of our I don't know, people said you can't do it, so you can't do it at Vandy, and you can't create any sort of tradition at Vandy, and I push back on that, and I'm very proud that that's still in existence. I hope it's still in existence. You tell me if it's not.
Hey, we started with 10 tailgating tents close to the stadium. Last time I was there were over 100 of them.
Wow.
And I think that's one of my most motivating favorite things in sports is when someone tells us, yeah, that's not going to work, or you can't do that.
100%. Yeah. I'm the same way, and probably gets me in trouble more time than not. But occasionally you get a slap single and it turns into a triple or a home run.
I do miss us picking up all the piss bags
I
after
was
the.
thinking about mentioning piss bags. Those are, I think I still smell those from time to time. I catch a whiff. For those that don't know, if at Vanderbilt, it has the prestigious impression that they have all, and they do have all this money, but they certainly didn't give it to the marketing department back in the day. And so Brandon and I were putting up those 10 tents and, more importantly, taking them down after the games. And, at tailgates, things get a little raucous, and there may or may not have been some piss in the gut in the curbs that were on the sandbags that we had to put back up and bring back out the next week.
I think I was always impressed because you guys, if there was like a noon kick or an 11 kick, like you guys had to be out there at like 3 o'clock in the morning or something. I mean, it was
so brutal.
I always would just ask, like, what are you guys doing?
I was
Can you
wondering
not
the
just
same
hire
thing.
somebody to go do this for you?
Well, it's funny. I started in like July at South Carolina, and the first event was like a fan day, right? And part of it was putting tables out for the team to sign autographs on, and I was fully prepared to be tackling all those tables and carrying them everywhere. And they said, no, we got people. You can just sit over there to the side. We got a facility to do that. And I was like, this is the greatest thing in the world. What are you talking about?
Before we get into specific digital trends, you've got a unique vantage point leading college growth at WMT Digital. What's your mindset when you step into an athletic department's digital ecosystem for the very first time?
Well, I want to understand their persona. I mean, some are very much do what we've always done. Some are looking for innovation. And then some are trying to generate revenue, and some are trying to tell stories. So I'm really trying to piece where they are and where they want to be. And sometimes they're fine where they are, and sometimes they need a little help. And that's where we position some of our products. But more importantly, our team is filled with people that have been in the roles, and we've been there, and we can show them how to get the most out of these products.
Where do you see most athletic departments right now in terms of digital maturity? Are they catching up to being true digital businesses?
No, I think there's a long way to go, because and I'll separate probably for this conversation just as a statement, differentiating between digital and social. And social is very much aggressive, mature. It's been invested in. It's delivering results for what it can do. But digital has not. I mean, I still face teams in schools that are not effectively utilizing email marketing. And I mean, that's how we sort of cut our teeth, several years or several decades ago now. But when you get to digital, the website is an afterthought because it's been around for 30 years. And it's just like the last thing you think of, and there's no intentionality around it. And then the app is just something you have to have in order to get into a game. And they both can be so much more than that. And if you get out of college athletics, those two assets are the number one assets in any business. I mean, they would tell you that your website is the most important thing that you have if you're trying to run a business for both generating revenue, communications, et cetera.
I wanted to ask you, why do you think that is? Is it just lack of resources, or is it just lack of awareness? Or, I mean, Barca and we've kind of kicked around some ideas for the podcast. Hey, let's go to a website and just dissect everything that their top 20 stories and see what that looks like. And 95% of them are press releases. And why are you going to go read a press release? I'm just not going to a website to do that. I just wonder why this is.
And I think it's kind of what I said earlier. It's so out of the focus of not only communications, marketing, but even senior leadership. Like there's no intentionality or review. I'm generalizing for sure, but there's very little effort on managing what that needs to be. So, I mean, right now when I go have early conversations with prospects, I'll say, what are the priorities for your digital platforms? And they all say revenue. And then I say, okay, well, let's just dive into that revenue thing. And then they'll list like 10 or 11 different revenue opportunities, whether it's tickets, donations, NIL, merch, sponsorship. And then tickets is like, you got football, basketball, baseball. I was like, okay, well, now you just told me 15 different quote unquote priorities. Give me the top one. And then they're just stunned. And when you don't have priorities you can't manage. And that's how you get to where you are now, is there's not a clear understanding from everyone involved. What's the point? And I think that's what we're trying to help people do.
You know, I kick around this idea all the time, being out of the business, but it just seems like a lot of athletic departments are afraid to put some negative things on their sites. Not negative, but you wrote an article about Curating Nation, which is amazing. And you guys, we did that at Vanderbilt a lot, where we would go around the web and see where things were going on, who wrote things about Vanderbilt, and is that I'm sure that's a problem, right, with comms people and ads, that they just don't want to have all this negative stuff on their site. You think that's an issue?
I'm going to separate my personal opinion with,
Sure,
I guess, the professional, I don't know, guidance, I guess. But yes, it's definitely an issue, because this goes to a larger issue of coaches having so much power in a college
Right.
athletics department. Because if you do anything that's slightly even objective, not negative, then you're going to have to answer the question from your coach or potential influential booster. And if you don't have that common priority that you're trying to stand behind and stand on, of I'm trying to build trust in my department, then you have no rebuttal but to take it down. And that's what has shifted. Even when those conversations come up, that's what usually gets in the way. And so even the most forward thinking departments are not going to have anything remotely negative on their site. Me personally, if I could get away with it, and if I was making decisions, then everything short of being an attack piece, a hit piece, I would put on there. I would put,
Yep.
I want to build the trust in my fan base that, oh, I'm at a party and I heard about this cool video. Where am I going to go first? I'm going to go to the app or the website. Or
Right.
there's a really good feature article on the starting point guard. Well, where do I go? Do I have to go to Google first, or do I go to the official source? And last thing on that is, I mean, your department, Boggs, I mean, y'all did so much work to uncover these stories,
Mm-hmm.
get the stories told. And then too often they just get put in a file in a desk, and they're not, I mean, they may get to the TV broadcaster, which is awesome, but they don't live beyond that. And
Right.
if it's a feature story on a head coach, even if it's the first year, why doesn't it live longer on the bio page? So that if I'm trying to learn about Indiana football and Signetti, well, there was probably some really good articles about him when he was hired. Surely there are right now, but let that be the collection of the best of the best. So as I'm watching them in the playoffs, I can learn a little bit about him.
Hey, if I'm running a team website right now, not trying to be too over the top here, you're not seeing any press releases on the front page. And I think you're looking at two different strategies. Either one, you're curating all of this content and putting it in there that's identifying really what the pulse of the fan base is. We have all the data out there. Just look at your social media channels and the conversations going on elsewhere. I'll also say there's a need, because I personally can't think, if I say I want all Vanderbilt news, where would I go to everything that's going on? Am I going to maybe to a Reddit board? Back in the day, it was message boards and recruiting sites, but I feel like that is a need. And if I'm not curating that content, the other thought I would have, and we've talked about this on the show, is hiring some sort of content creator that's face first in front of the brand every day, that's proactively engaging and having these conversations. So it's content on your website, it's also on social, it's proactive communication, it's utilizing another underutilized channel, YouTube. We could talk about other social channels that are an afterthought. This is how we're consuming content right now. And this, whether it's on platforms like social or websites, but still it's like the sexy thing is like, hey, we're going to post these social media posts and it's going to be fun, but you've got this gold mine sitting everywhere and it's just not being used properly.
Yeah. I mean, at the base level, just step back a second, and you have this asset that a mid-level Power 4 school is going to have probably 4 to 5 million unique individuals come through their platform a year. Okay, You can choose to talk to them or you can choose not to talk to them. And many people are just forgetting about the traffic that comes through those sites. Because they don't view them, because I mean, we all knew what time the game was coming up because, we're working there, we're living it. So the people that are making those evaluations and communication strategies sometimes just completely forget about this asset because they don't use it, but they use social frequently, and it's top of mind. You said something about a brand personality, and I'm 100% on board with that. I think that's a very fun, refreshing way to attack it, and that can also allow you to bring in some negative, so that they can talk about the negative and just be a fan, and it's okay. It's okay to just be real. And I don't know that we're ever going to get quite there in the near future, but I hope so.
So I'm thinking about the way websites were in 2015 and 2020. So what are some of the differences that that are happening now compared to maybe, let's just say, 10 years ago? What are some of those trends that you're seeing?
There's a lot of other third-party vendors that can help make these platforms better. So for example, there's one so BYU is one of our clients, and they're very good. And they use a product called it's WSC. It's among other things,
I know
it's
that.
AI highlight curation, and it's in their app. It'll be on their web shortly, but it's they don't have to touch it. They set up rules, and they play Utah, and the game story of clips will execute like Instagram reels, or excuse me, Instagram stories. And there might be 7 stories within that one game, and they didn't touch anything. They just set up rules, and it's just happening. And not only is that great for the department, but it's great for the user. So now, and this is an important distinction back to the good or bad. So I asked them, I was like, how do you have a conscious decision? Do you show the opponent's good plays? And they said, no, we value telling the full story of the game. So if we get blown out, you're gonna see a bunch of touchdowns from Utah. Now they might curate that a little bit, but the point is they're not just gonna make it a bunch of BYU touchdowns and the final score we lost by 20. It's like, well, wait a minute, how'd that happen? And I think that's an important lesson, both in using third-party vendors, but then making your platform the source for fans. The other thing is modularity, and this is what we talk about a lot with WMT platforms, is that, in 2015, the page was the page. You create a page and it's static pretty much. Well, now it doesn't have to be the same think of a football game week. Monday can be different than Tuesday, which can be different than, and I don't mean different story, I mean a whole different layout that might prioritize the message or the sales opportunity that you're trying to preach in the community. So if you know that 75% of your single game sales are coming the last 2 days before a game, well, let's make sure that that's front and center on Thursday and Friday before a game, along with game day information. That's so obvious, and it's there with most people, but it's not easily findable, and because you got to search through a lacrosse loss from last night to go find
Yeah.
the what time's the game, or what time do the parking lots open, or whatever. And it's just being a little bit more intuitive on how to surface the information they're looking for.
I think that's part of the issue too, and no disrespect to my comps people out there when we were running websites, and I know some marketing places too, but you've just got to take a completely different mindset and skill set when you're running these channels. And working in agency life, I was blown away by how important business intelligence and synchronizing in Unity all of these different platforms to live together using the intelligence and data, not only to improve the experience, but to really use it to your advantage, the data that you're receiving. And maybe there just aren't enough people in those positions that truly understand it.
And that's where I go back to, it's a bit of a leadership void of someone needs to be able to explain to the department why it's important. And okay, now that you know it's important, what are the KPIs we're going to evaluate to reflect that importance? And I think that's what has gotten both comms and marketing people askew in departments is that we all know that they have value, but they haven't communicated their value up as well as they should. And I think that there's measurable ways that they could do that if there was a better approach.
What's one practical way right now, just a quick upgrade or priority a team could put into place?
Data collection. So it's, I mentioned the 5 million user metric. Most people only know like 0.5% of those people. They're all anonymous. And the ability to collect that Brandon Barca is on this site. And now I know what actually Brandon Barca is interested in and where he's going, what pages he's viewing. And I'm building a profile for Brandon Barca. Now, some of that is a tech solution and some of it is strategy. But the strategy, to answer your question specifically, is data collection. As often as you can collect data on users, that's the most vital piece of information you can have on web or app.
So I think too, just looking at like the internal structure of an athletic department, I just think these websites fall into these cracks, and it's just this void because people are busy doing other things. If I'm the basketball contact, I got TV to deal with, notes, I'm going on a road trip, I'm doing this, doing that. Your marketing person is trying to get, figure out what game day is going to look like. Your external person's trying to raise money, going out here, going out there. Who knows if they're even around? And there's just nobody inside the department that really kind of knows how to make this thing chug along and make it work. And
right.
I don't know if that's just are departments hiring people specifically? Like back in the day, Barca, you were a web person. Like that was your title, like amongst other things. But it just seems to me that it just gets lost in the cracks, man. And people are not addressing it and spending time on it.
No, you nailed it, Boggs. And we see it from our seat when there is what we call a platform manager, someone who is in control of, even if it's just the app, just someone to own it and prioritize it in their daily workday, then the results are tremendous. Like, for example, if a little bit going back to Brandon's question, but Boggs, when you were working basketball, and if there were KPIs that help, maybe there's an incentive associated with it, that revenue that came from basketball related pages on the web or app through ticket sales or first party data collection on basketball sites. So that encourages you to bring traffic. It encourages you to prioritize those two things as opposed to traffic. Well, traffic to my site is overwhelmingly related to performance of the team. There's not a whole lot Boggsy can do there, but the traffic that does come, you can have them do, you can push them in the direction that you want them to go.
Gosh, I got a lot of thoughts on this. The couple of positions I would be thinking about, and obviously with NIL stuff right now, these positions aren't going to get hired, but I feel like a lot of schools, and correct me if I'm wrong, are hiring more data and analytics people. They're trying to catch up with, I think, the pro model, which has done well at it and been more ahead of the game. Now, do they truly understand what to do with that data? That's a whole nother conversation. They may be gathering it, but I'm also looking at positions like, we'll talk about AI later, AI director position, but also just someone that's a thought leader or a brand leader that's not deep in the trenches of every single task and is just looking at how can we truly optimize all of these different channels.
And there is a bit of a trend. I'm glad you brought that up. There's a bit of a trend there that I'm seeing from certainly high major schools of, titles can be misleading no matter where you look in a department, but they typically fall into the CRO title. But those people are removed from mostly the operational aspects, and they can think more broadly, more strategically. The expectation is you start to see a little bit more of that forward thinking coming out of those roles. Remains to be seen if they get sucked into the into the void that is college athletics of spending your time and attention on things that are not the priority. And that sounds so negative in what I'm saying there, but it's the reality. It's you might everyone knows that football revenue is the number one priority, but you go reflect on the time spent last week and the percentage of time spent on equestrian, and I'm not minimizing equestrian, but it could be anything that's not generating football revenue. And that's a problem. And it takes discipline and leadership from above to stay the course. But I do think that those positions are starting to come, and as they have success, then it'll beget more success across the country.
But and maybe this is low hanging fruit and this doesn't affect the overall big picture in their minds, but do those positions really know, hey man, our email newsletter sucks? My experience with a lot of them has just been on things like email newsletters or apps is, hey, it's awesome that we have one up and running. That's great. We're doing this.
Right. I would completely agree with you. I'm hopeful that this new crop of CROs are more analytical and they can look at the entire user journey from whatever they're trying to evaluate, if it's sales or donation or just fan engagement, and then backtrack that across that journey and develop those KPIs so that they can monitor it. And if you're doing that, then all of a sudden you get to the email newsletter and it's like, these numbers are not really good. Is this newsletter very good? Let's do a deep dive. And it's not a one person thing. It needs to be a culture, but you need someone to drive that culture to. So then in a perfect environment, you have someone like a young Brandon go to the CRO and say, hey, I got these ideas around XYZ. What do you think? And to where, now at some places, I'm not sure that that's happening.
I think what's missing, well, part of it's the creativity, but it's really a personalized, unique experience in an intentional way of running these different channels.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're not all the same. I mean, to your point, and it took me a long time to get there personally, back in the social craze, if you will, I was all about distribution. If we have a piece of content, it's like, well, every channel we have, let's distribute it, equally. And, I was taught, and some of us old people still have room to learn, that, you don't have to distribute the same piece of content, and you shouldn't, across all the different channels. And segmentation is something that we learned early in email marketing, and I just kind of lost it in the world of social, but it still exists.
With all these digital channels, you have websites and apps and newsletters and direct text messages to fans. Like, how do you actually decide where to invest time and resources? I mean, should all of these channels be tightly integrated? You kind of mentioned that in your last answer, but it's just a really interesting time right now. There's so many ways to communicate with people, and I'm just wondering, where should we spend our time?
What I would say to that answer, not only for a podcast, but for a prospect meeting, is that you should invest your time in the data collection and analytics, because it's all about the right channel for the right person and the right message for the right person. And what I'm getting at is I'm in a 5-year argument with a colleague about his sales team. And I was like, dude, why are you making so many sales calls still? I was like, you know what I do when I receive a sales call? I send it to voicemail. But if you text me, you're going to get almost an immediate response. So my point there is there are people that still like to talk on the phone. And if your department is structured such that that Boggs likes to talk on the phone and Barca likes to send a text message, that's where those channels become important. You don't want the same person receiving the same information from text, email, social, app, push notification, physical mail. That's a little bit much. There's time to layer on the channels, but not in everyday communication. So I think the intelligence at the center to understand how to use those channels and personalize those channels is where the investment should be made. Because I think all of them are vital.
To me, there's a lot of ingenuity going on in your space right now. People that are doing, these like Hogs Plus and Gamecocks Plus and LSU Plus, and you guys are housing a lot of these things. But I just think that the website part is it's kind of missing. But tying it all together is really hard to do. There's so much going on. I mean, you may have a video crew with your basketball team, or you may you have a newsletter going out every day, and you've got 3 podcasts that are making pretty good money. But then at the end of the day, your website's just putting up press releases.
And I
I
think
think
that's
there's some growth there.
yeah, I agree, and I think that's where I would debate you a little bit. Is I don't know that it's a lot more work. It's just a shift in mindset because
Hmm.
it's already getting captured, it's getting produced, it's getting distributed. It's just not being considered for your owned and operated platforms. And you mentioned podcasts. Like this is a perfect example. I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fan,
Hmm.
and I consume Cardinals content in season every day.
Hmm.
And there was a podcast that somehow came across my Twitter feed, X feed, I guess. I still can't do that. And it was a podcast with some former Cardinals. Matt Holliday was one of them. And I was like, man, this is great. And I now started listening to it, and it's awesome. And it's not an official Cardinals
Right.
podcast, but back to curation. Why in the world would that not be endorsed by the official Cardinals channels? Whether it be social, digital, whatever. And my point in all of that is just it's all there, it's all being produced. It just takes someone to be intentional about surfacing it and making sure it's seen by everyone.
Especially now that we're so fragmented. I mean,
Hmm.
there's some things that you probably look at every day that I have no idea. Like, I don't
Right.
know where you're getting your sports news from. And, like 15 years ago, we were all getting it from ESPN.com, or we were all getting it from, I don't know where, Yahoo, or, wherever we were getting it. Now it's just everything is so divided. Bark and
And
I, we,
that's
we have a lot of the same interests, but we consume our information way different, almost like opposite ends of the spectrum. And so it's just to be able to curate everything. Like, I'm a Florida State alum. I would I don't go to their website, but if they would curate some articles for me, or some latest things that's happening in social, or latest thing
right.
that a piece that ran on game day, maybe after they beat Alabama or something, I may go watch it. I may go to their site, but right now I'm not going there
You
because they're
talk,
bad,
you talk about
right?
the different channels. The one of the trends is a lot more conversations around mobile apps, and what's
Mm-hmm.
driving those conversations are the social algorithms and the fact that you and Brandon might have similar interests but have a completely different experience, and the brand has zero control over what both of you see. However, if I can train you back to come to the app for whatever strategic tactic that you employ, then now not only do I have a better than average chance to know that you saw what I wanted you to see, but even more important to me in the old marketing position is you don't have the comments that are so toxic, and
Mm,
it's just content. Now you lose a little bit on the interactivity of that, but as the brand, I mean, sometimes the comments just take over, and
they do.
it's unfortunate.
You touched on this briefly, but I really want to get your thoughts. You've told us in prep for this interview that team apps are becoming vital. Why is that?
Well, a lot of that is what I just said about the algorithms changing and people wanting to control their fans' experience, because your X experience and your Instagram experience, if you follow the same team, are going to be completely different, and you might miss key information. You're not going to miss that viral video. You're not going to miss that, but you are going to miss key information about, maybe an injured player that, oh, I didn't know they were out. Well, maybe that's why we got blown out by 30 points, because we had a walk-on center, snapping the ball. That's one thing, is controlling the message, or attempting to control the message, and not being rented on the algorithm. Along that same line, though, when you leverage social media as your primary channels, you can't monetize it. So when
Mm,
you're communicating on X and Instagram, well, sponsored content is real, and you can generate some serious revenue there. Transactional revenue is not occurring on social. It's occurring on websites and apps. And then lastly, if I'm trying to, I read this with the NBA and their strategy with their mobile app, is they view social as the tip of the spear, and the fact that you might see LeBron James's highlight dunk, but you don't know the rest of the story, and you don't know who won the game, and they want the owned app to be deeper. So they view social as wide and owned and operated platforms as deep. So you're definitely going to be the more avid fan on websites and apps. And if you think of it as a funnel, then you're kind of that mid funnel fan, not the like I'm not a LeBron or Lakers fan, but I will see a highlight. But a Lakers fan should be able to go to the NBA app and get the full story of that game. I don't mean
What
stories, I mean video clip stories.
you mentioned NBA. Give us an example of maybe teams you're seeing that are really utilizing their app experience for their fans. And I know you can go a lot of different directions when you start talking about loyalty and fan engagement and data capture, or maybe it's ticketing or news or push alerts. What are you saying?
I mean, Manchester United is probably the one, and I'm not a Man U fan, but their digital strategy is on point, especially when you consider they got more money than God, and they could partner with whomever they want, but they choose to own the experience, and they'll even do their e-commerce. They have a third party, but it was important the way that item is delivered to your home and the packaging that is delivered in your home. So they wanted to be able to control that part of the user experience.
Hmm.
So they have a company called, I think it's called Scale, that executes their e-commerce. But they have a Manu Plus, a premium subscription platform. Their apps are fantastic. Their website is fantastic. So they're, to me, the benchmark. I think the Buffalo Bills is a really good one in the NFL. A lot of them they're bringing social elements into the app. Bills have something called Bills Bits, which it's like, think of it as like TikTok, but it's within their app. I think Cowboys are good, and then the NBA League app and Premier League app. Those two are really really good.
So you mentioned some data collection. What exactly are you collecting? What are some of the main things that you're trying to gather?
Well, who you are and how to reach you. So your name, your email, and then we want to understand your engagement patterns. So are you engaged? Like if let's take Barca for example. If he hasn't been to the site in 6 months or in the app in 6 months, then he's probably becoming less of a fan. There's a direct tie between engagement and affinity. And if I can measure that either you are coming a lot, and now maybe a good time to reach out for a donation or a ticket sale, or you're not coming a lot and you are a season ticket holder, well, you might need a phone call or a text message, whatever channel you prefer, to re-engage to make sure that you're going to come back next year. So not only just engagement as a macro, like he is engaged, but what did he do? Where did he go? What time did he come into the game? And, back to that example of he's not engaged, but there's a game coming up. Well, when he goes to get his tickets in the app, I want him to see a different message than the avid fan, because I need him to know that he's appreciated. And maybe there's a loyalty play in venue and he needs that extra attention because he's thinking about, churning and leaving the program. Those are all the things that you can do when you understand your fan. And it's now more than ever, all those different data sources are connected and have the ability to be connected, and you can, most importantly, act on them. It used to be, took a lot of time to get them all connected, and you could produce a report and then talk about it in a meeting. And now you can like take action in an immediate sense. And that's what's really exciting.
And I think to me, it's so important right now. There's especially, Indiana football, Vanderbilt football, where this is a time to make new fans.
Right.
This is a time where you need to connect with these people because, heck, Vanderbilt could be 6-6 again next year, or 5-7, or 4-8, or Indiana. 2 could easily fall back, and the trend is towards that direction. And so it's so important to me, I think, just to gather this kind of stuff so you can be more engaging.
Yeah, first party data is the holy grail, and y'all know it's not easy to get, and you have to offer something of value to get it typically, but you also want it to be real. Like I used to call them like junk leads when I had to give a prize for you to enter this contest. Well, you're not really interested in tickets because you're really interested in winning a free football
T-shirt.
Like I want to know that you really are interested in the Gamecocks or the Commodores or whatever.
Educate us on open loyalty.
Yeah, it's I'm actually trying to look up his name because I want to give him credit. Shri Paul. He's the one that's talking a lot about this in the industry. I'm a big subscriber to it, but you can see it if you look, you kind of look behind the scenes in a few different apps like Gatorade has it, Adidas has it, NBA has it. And what open loyalty means is loyalty for years has been constrained to the game day. So if I have come to 6 straight games and I come to that 7th game and I get a free Coke, A, that's not very motivating, and B, it's not very rewarding and doesn't change my behavior. So the big unlock is getting outside of game day and understanding that fans are they're more complex humans and they have more interests than just their favorite team. And if I can leverage my spend and engagement and activity that I have with, the Tennessee Titans, and I can use that in exchange at Nike to get a discount on shoes or an exclusive Nike collaboration with a Tennessee Titans person, that's what open loyalty is. It's getting out of one organization and including another, and vice versa, so that if I have Nike points, I can use them on Titans tickets. And that's what's pretty close. And like I said, you'll see it in the NBA app. You can connect your Nike account there. Adidas, you can utilize your Adidas rewards points for like Spotify Premium, I believe is one of them. Like things like that are like, okay, that's real behavior changing, which is what airlines and credit cards have been doing forever, and now it's making it down to sports.
Yeah, I think cable companies are starting to do it now too. These negotiations that are happening with Disney and Comcast and Disney and YouTube TV. These companies are saying, you got to throw something extra in for me, like a free Peacock subscription or,
Right.
Discount to maybe a Spotify membership or whatever. It seems like it's starting to bleed into other areas as well.
As data becomes more organized and more accessible, and most importantly, maintain its privacy, then now you can like share it across a broader spectrum. And that's what's kind of unlocking some of these opportunities, which is, I don't know, to me, it's really cool. I'm a little bit of a nerd in that scenario, but the previous rewards programs didn't really change behavior. It just rewarded the same behavior. And I think these have the opportunity to change behavior.
Help me out on this. What percentage of your time do you invest in being smart about using your app for driving revenue versus what's actually engaging and nurturing fans to come back every day? Sometimes one side can be like all about, for emails, I can just be like, all I'm getting are emails about, hey, the season started, season tickets, this and that.
I've made a lot of mistakes over my career, and one of them was where exactly the example you said is I want to treat the email channel as a sales channel, and the only thing you got were sales offers and promotional packages, and it just trains people that you're not thinking about those that already have tickets. It's like, why the hell do I need this thing if I already have tickets and all you're doing is trying to sell me tickets? As far as I definitely have shifted and leaned probably more 60-40 engagement to revenue. Probably a personal philosophy. If you really believe that engagement leads to revenue, engagement leads to long-term value. Lifetime value of the fan is a metric that's kind of nebulous and hard to define. But if you believe engagement leads to revenue, then you're going to be shifting more on the engagement side. That's where I am now. Engagement for engagement's sake is where I think it starts to splinter the other way. Like there's many gaming companies that will talk about fan engagement, and I think they're great and they're a great entry point into a brand. But yeah, I don't know that an engagement with a game is the same thing as checking a score of a game or watching the game. Like there's a bit of a difference to me in how those are evaluated. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, it does. I think
What do you think? What is engagement to you in that context?
for me, bottom line, just on any content, is one, what's the purpose for someone to use this app or website? Having a clear intentional purpose. I think as overwhelming as it can be, there's a simplicity to it all.
Mhm.
And a lot of times you can define it in a one sheeter, like, what in the hell are we trying to do here? And so you talk about personalizing the experience, or are we driving? Is it revenue first? I think of, I think it starts with me with value. Like, what am I getting out of this? Why should I read this email every day? Why should I open this app? What's the purpose? Because there are too many different entertainment options in our hand every day. And I mean, I think of little things of like going back on how content is integrated very well. We can talk about smart brevity. We can talk about places like Axios that do their, or even any national news site that it's like, hey, you want to learn the top 5 things about what's going on with this news org or brand every day? You know what? Click here, sign up for an email. We'll give you a morning podcast version that's 5 minutes long. If you have the app, because you may not be visiting our website, you're just getting notifications all day long that are just saying like, hey, here's breaking news or things that are happening. It's simplifying, being very intentional on what's the purpose of each platform. And then a whole nother argument or a whole nother ideology is, who are we actually targeting? Like, I feel a lot of times we're just throwing shit out there to the masses.
No, and I think that's what personalization allows you to do. And back to one of the other answers, you can't be personalized unless you know something, you know who they are. So that's that core fundamental piece is to gather information. Let me give you another example of engagement and how it leads to revenue. So I'm not sure if y'all remember, but like, one of the common problems in an athletic department is a donor, it gets to be season ticket renewal time and they want to know, where do I rank and how much do I have to give to get into this extra section or to qualify for these new club seats, etc. And what are their options? Their only option is to call in to the office and ask someone, and you probably got to leave a voicemail. It's just a painful process.
Yeah.
Well, what BYU did is they leveraged the data work that we do with them, and they brought that right into their app. So now the donor can just, if they have the question, they log into their app and see where they are, see how much they need to give to the next level. And that little thing, at least in my view, we haven't run the data to see if this thesis plays out, but that builds brand trust. And as you build brand trust, you're more likely to renew and more likely to potentially upgrade, because when you go through that first version, we've all been there. You think, freaking, I'm going to use Vanderbilt because we all work there, but Vanderbilt can't get out of their own way. I can get this information on my bank app, but I can't get it on this school that I spend $200,000 with for sending my kid there. And it's like that level of building trust through engagement and technology is a real thing. And I can't wait for it to play out with real data.
You mentioned BYU a couple of times, and I know they're a client. Why are they doing things so well? Is it as simple as the people they have in the certain chairs there?
Simple answer, yes. One of their leadership, digital leaders, if you will, I believe his title's Associate AD for Creative, Hutchins. He came from Clemson, and Clemson, of course, set the bar in creativity in the mid-teens, and with Jonathan Gant, and he was there and learned a lot from Jonathan, and then now he's taken it to BYU, and I mean, it's the same stuff that we're talking about here, but he's empowered to make decisions and follow that to wherever it leads. And can't say that these results are leading to their undefeated football season, but it makes that undefeated football season a lot more attractive and engaging, and now they can understand.
What I love, going back to Jonathan Gant and what they did at Clemson was social, was groundbreaking. And I think out of it, that's motivating to me in anything that I was doing at the time. It challenged myself to think smarter. But you need these places like Clemson or BYU, or other places that are willing to sort of disrupt the system and just be like, we're not just going to do what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, and to show you that there is another way. And what needs to happen in the industry is for more people to stand up and say, hey, look, BYU's done it, Clemson's done it, we should do it, and here's why. And that's sort of the role that I try to play at WMT, is to be able to connect those dots. And because the ADs, they need to be armed with data and reasoning on why to invest, and that's my role, is to help them make that decision to invest in technology and invest in culture.
I just had a question about AI and what are you seeing in this space and how it can help people in departments, do their jobs better and faster.
Yeah, I kind of put them in two categories. There's AI that's baked into products or new products that have formed because of AI. I'll put that in one category, and then I'll put in more generalist AI like ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's kicking the tires and trying to find products that fit, that are AI driven. Like we have one now, we're coming out with more later this year, which are, they're exciting. The reason why at first it was shiny new toy, but then it's like really functional assistance. And whenever you can scale something beyond what a human can do, it's like, okay, this has value. This is pretty cool. So that's the product side. In the Chat GPT side, or Gemini, or what do y'all use primarily?
I use Claude.
You use Claude? I've used that before too. Yeah.
ChatGPT.
I tend to gravitate towards Chat GPT mainly because I paid for it, but B, it just serves me better. But to answer your question, I just see a lot of experimentation, and which is great. And if I was in my old job managing people, I would really encourage people to continue to experiment. But it's not taking the next step of standardization across a department. And you might have, one employee that's really into it. Within the same like comm shop,
Yeah.
one employee that's like locked in and they're very efficient, and then other people that are still, typing with a typewriter, as Barca said.
Right.
But I think speeding up processes is becoming a pretty standard thing across the comms world. Is things that they were doing that took 2 hours, maybe now they're taking 10 minutes. And I think that's cool. I think they're just scratching the tip of the opportunity, though.
Yeah, I could see you guys as kind of like this CRM where, let's say I'm a basketball communications guy, and there's a lot of data. Let's say you've had the same website for 20 years. There's a lot of data there. Why not use it to, you just, instead of asking ChatGPT, you're asking WMT GPT.
Right.
And it's just basically, it spits out, okay, I want, top 10 rebounders since, 2015, and I want it formatted in this type of format, and bang, it spits it. It should be able to spit it out, I think, right? Or it's probably going to happen soon.
It's funny you say that. I was experimenting with something just like that with ChatGPT. That is available for everyone right now. You just upload your media guide and game notes, and then ask it questions. And it's flawless. It's unbelievable.
It's incredible.
And we're working on products to bring that to the user level, but it's there right now for comms, marketing, what have you. And I think the idea of a specialized, personalized AI foundation for each department, each school, it's either here or here in the next 2 to 3 years, where you have this model trained on your data, your team history, etc. On the business side, the performance side, etc.
I just think too, this stuff fascinates the hell out of me. I just think too, you don't want ChatGPT to have all of this information. You want it in the walls of your building, the walls of your department. And so that's where I think you guys would have a huge chance for growth there in that area. Just because I don't want to share my stuff with ChatGPT, because then it's out there for the whole world to see. I don't want South Carolina basketball to go in there and be able to see all my records and see. I just don't. I guess I do. Maybe that's a bad example.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. When I was talking about media guides and game notes, I'm taking publicly available information.
No, yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Indexing them and searching them better. But to your point of, if I'm an AD and I'm doing my head coaching eval, and I want to know how many in the 5 years that he's been here or she's been here, how many student athletes have had a conduct violation.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want that to be searchable. Well, you definitely don't want that outside the walls. You need that to be private. And to me, that's a very near term use case for a centralized departmental AI.
I think people are definitely, like you said, using AI right now in sort of silos within the work they're doing every day. And again, it's another thing that's way in its infancy. And we saw the growth of websites when they started. We've seen the growth of social media and what it's become over the last 20 years. Will it become more used across the board from a department level once the ROI can be defined?
Yeah. I mean, it's always been that way, that ROI drives decision making, ROI or recruiting. And now that recruiting has been minimized, ROI drives decision making. And yes, like to Boggs's example, I think that's a great use case tool, but that's not motivating to drive revenue. I think starting in the revenue generating areas where you can answer business decisions, or what should I price my tickets at? I mean, that's the tool that we have now, is it's pricing tickets in real time based on real time demand. I mean, think about when we were at Vanderbilt, if you're pricing football tickets for this year in March, it's a little bit different environment now that the team is friggin' football playoff in contention.
Walk us through what that is.
Yeah, it's a product called Tillion, and I've learned a lot about this since working here. I was definitely not as educated in my old role, but ticketing is the number one lever that an athletic department can pull to find new revenue, right? Because you can't control media rights, and you generally can't control sponsorship. You can some, but not nearly directly attributable as you can ticket sales. And there's three components. There's how you set up your stadium, your seat map. Okay. That can be adjusted and influenced by an AI model. There's the what's called primary ticket sales. So that's on your website's ticket provider. And then there's secondary ticket sales, which is on StubHub, SeatGeek, et cetera. And our model, our tool, our product can work independently across any one of the three, or in a perfect scenario, you do all three. But if you think about just the primary, because that's the easiest to talk about, is if there's a row, a section, a seat in the venue, just like a stock, if you don't know what it's worth, you don't know what it's worth until you show the market to it. You show it to the market. So you may think that this seat is worth $50 in March, but when you get to October, in the middle of the season, that seat might be worth $45. Well, that a human can do, right? Any human could say, okay, Vanderbilt's better, let's bump it up $15. But what our model is doing is it's always trying to find what price will sell that ticket. So one day it's going to be 46, and one day it's going to be 44, one day it'll be 48. And if it sells at 48, then the next time the similar seat will be 49, 47, 52. It's just always attempting to find the price at which it'll sell.
Hey, look, I'm somewhat fearful of the AI robots taking over. We all are. But it just blows my mind how much more efficient and smarter we can be with these tools.
Yeah, it's, as a comms person, and maybe you have some thoughts about this and where the business is heading. I think what we've talked on the podcast, what it allows you to do is be more engaged in actually pitching things to people that can help you get your message out. Whether, because there's not a lot of pitching going on right now. We both, Bark and I both worked at PR firms, so we did a lot of pitching. There's none of that going on right now. It's because they're so busy doing other things that frankly don't really matter. And so if AI can kind of get rid of some of that stuff, and then you can concentrate on pitching a cool story to the Athletic, or you have a player from San Francisco that is killing it, you can contact the guy at the Chronicle, maybe invite him into a game, or figure out a way to, keep him engaged in your program. That's kind of where the sweet spot's going to be, because AI is going to be able to take care of all these kind of minuscule things that you've been spending all this time on.
And that's the promise, and that's the reality right now. And those that know how to execute and leverage are seeing some of those results like right now.
If you had to predict, I mean, this is a crystal ball. We don't know what the hell is going to happen 5 years, 10 years from now, but how is AI going to be evolving within sports? I mean, you're already seeing a little bit of it with some of the services you guys are offering.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm definitely not in that role at WMT. I think I can think more in terms of like 2 to 3 years, probably less than 5 to 10. Who knows? Who the hell knows? But yeah, certainly more consistent adoption, less fear, more efficiency, finding out which expenses are worth having and which expenses are driving the most revenue. I think communications with your users are going to be more efficient because you can personalize at scale, which you just can't do right now. And as those become delivered and refined, I think they'll be effective, and then everyone else will follow. So I think the personalization piece is probably the next one to come. I think the agentic AI is really interesting to me. So, like to your Boggs's example, instead of freeing up your time to go call that San Francisco writer, your agentic AI would recognize that the San Francisco player scored 26 points and automatically look in your database and email all of the San Francisco writers and say, hey, I just want to make you aware that XYZ had a double double. Let me know if you need anything.
Man, you are talking my language right now.
Right. And you can just
Golly,
sit
that
back.
would just be incredible.
But I
I
think
mean,
that the piece that I would advise comms people to do is as work gets taken away, not taken away, but AI helps you find new time. It's the same story that's been there for 20 years. Is you have to figure out a way to communicate your value in the organization better because it's there. It's just not recognized.
yeah.
And to me, in my world, it's putting a metric on it and trying to figure out how to equate it to value. And there's significant value there. It's just not being communicated.
Let's close this last 10 minutes learning a little bit more about your background and your career. You've had an incredible journey over the last 25 years in sports. We mentioned it before, starting in the mailroom at Vandy to leading college growth at WMT. Did you dream this up?
Absolutely not. I don't think I would have drawn this game plan. I mean, I'm quite proud of it because it's so unusual. Especially I have a daughter who's 20 years old, and I tell her some of these same principles, I guess, is that you can't lay out your career path in a linear fashion. You need to be nimble to take you where the market will take you, right? And I think that's what I did over my career. I wasn't afraid to potentially do a job that I wasn't paid for. I hear that sometimes and it makes me cringe. Like, well, if you want me to do this, then you got to pay me extra. And it's like, well, I mean, yeah, but that's just not the right attitude, in my opinion. But there is abuse there too, so I get it. But yeah, I mean, my story, I'll give the quick version, but it was graduated from Tennessee Martin. I got my MBA, feeling pretty good about myself. Worked at Nike for 6 months. Felt like I was, somebody, right? But then Nike went through some layoffs and I was left without a job. And so I called a friend at Vanderbilt and I said, hey, I'm looking to get back in college athletics. And he said, well, we just had the guy in the mailroom die. Would you be interested in sporting mail? I was like, well, that's not exactly what I had in mind, but yeah, sure. So I did that in the morning, and then I worked in facilities in the afternoons. No, excuse me, I did like I was like installing computers and printers or something like that. Then it morphed into facilities and then game event management. And then I'm old enough to say that's when the web came along. And the guy threw me a book and said, hey, figure out how to learn to design websites. And so I did. And it's kind of funny that that's where my career has ended up. But yeah, from there, I mean, none of those jobs are on a job description. And but I took the initiative to learn and, failed many times. But finally, after a bunch of odd jobs at Vanderbilt, I was led marketing the last 5 years of the 10 years. And then the rest of the I guess career was a little bit more normal, if you will, but moved to South Carolina, started in a similar role at Vanderbilt, and then kept moving up at South Carolina. And I think buoyed a lot by digital and data because people were either afraid of it, didn't want to jump into it. It was intimidating, or that's not what I'm asked to do. And that's not the way I thought about it. And I had a few partners in South Carolina that were better than me at it, and we built something pretty cool.
Do you miss being on campus? And if you do, what's the top thing you miss?
Generally, no, I don't miss being on campus.
Okay. Sure. I don't either.
There's like 5% of me that the only thing I miss is bigger projects, like to take an insight. So here's a problem, here's a potential solution, rallying the troops around the solution, executing, and then evaluating. And that's a long process. And then you sort of celebrate together. And in a role like mine, where I'm basically a staff of one, you don't have that sort of opportunity to have a team environment. But that's it. That's like 5% of any regret, if you will. But I should have done it a long time ago. I'll say that.
Was a PhD always part of the plan?
No, we were in a athletic department meeting in South Carolina, and it's actually Danny Morrison, who was president of the Panthers, and amongst other things. But he came in and he got his PhD at South Carolina. He goes, "Hey, if you work here, they give you a class a semester. If you have any interest in it, give it a shot, because it's virtually free, and it allows you to, if you want to be a professor later in your career, you can come back and do that." And that's kind of always something that I've had in the back of my mind. And so I just started it. I took one class. I thought I'd fail and not tell anybody that I took the class, and so I would be so embarrassed, but I ended up doing fine. And then COVID hit, which allowed me to accelerate some of the classes. And yeah, by then I was pot committed, and I had to do the dissertation and finished it up. But it was 5 years, but I'm happy that I did it, and learned a lot for sure. And kind of, again, back to how we started the podcast, not that anyone told me you can't do it, but in my mind, I thought, Nichols, why do you think you are good enough to get a PhD? So it's a little bit about proving myself wrong.
What about words of wisdom for people who are starting? Let's say someone's getting their college degree right now, and they're in sports management. This is what they want to do. What are a couple things you would say to them?
Need to learn to write, and write regularly. I think communicating, whether it's verbal or written, is a lost art. Brandon mentioned smart brevity earlier. I think that's an incredible tool to learn to write in an effective manner. I don't mean poetry, obviously. You're trying to communicate a message. So learn to write. I think selling is still an important attribute, and that doesn't necessarily mean door-to-door sales. It just means identifying the differentiated feature that you need to communicate your brand, your product, your service, whatever. But then probably most importantly, this is what Mark Cuban says every time, is AI. Spend 5 hours every day learning AI and how to use it, and be the AI expert in your department, because there's not one. I can trust it. I can guarantee you there's not.
Man, I know you got to get going to a meeting. We really appreciate having you on. Of course, I love you. And people listening out there, all of you, send this guy a DM on LinkedIn. He can change your life. And what he's doing at WMT, there's a lot of cool stuff. Maybe there's a consultation involved. Who knows?
Well, I love you guys too. It's good to see you again. And don't be a stranger. Y'all take care.
Time to wrap it up.
And that's another edition of No Longer Credentialed. Thanks to all of you listening, and if you like it, tell a friend and give it a 5-star rating on your podcast app of choice. Don't forget to check us out on social media at NLC Pod on X, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We'd love to hear from you. Until next week, keep grinding.